Curation, very important, right? I'm sure there's somebody on the call that has started a community and really was a Slack workspace, which by the way, we use Slack too. So there's no shame in that, but no curation, and not just curation in terms of stimulating conversation. Hey, does anybody know a recruiter in San Luis Obispo? Here's an interesting little tidbit for you. It's the free version of Slack. When I started doing this 9 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago, most communities just worked on the free version, which didn't have message history. But why did I upgrade? I didn't upgrade for message history. I didn't really care about message history, to be honest with you. I cared about the naming convention of all of the people in the community. So it sounds weird, but we had a naming convention where, because you'd sign up for something and for my name, Sam Jacobs, it would be S Jacobs 0719, or it would be Sam J 1977. And that, if you believe in broken windows theory, that looked like shit. It didn't look good. It looked messy. It looked too anonymous. And that eroded trust. So the original reason that I upgraded to the paid version of Slack was so that I could change the display names. And so I changed the display names to first name, last name, and then the city, the airport code of the city where they lived. And so, of course, mine was Sam Jacobs NYC. But that's the point. So curation takes a lot of forms. One is, how do people present themselves? Do you encourage them to upload a profile picture? Of course you must, because if they're on a digital platform and nobody knows who they are, all of the things you're doing are trying to convey, as it says, signal, so that people have trust. That word's going to come up again and again, because what you're trying to establish is trust. And in this sense, it's trust through hygiene. It's trust through the fact that you have an SLA, that when somebody asks a question, you tag people or you try to get that question answered. You go off and you make sure that the synapse fires. Because what happens is the thing can become self-sustaining, but if you don't encourage those synapses to fire, if you don't help those people get their questions answered, if you don't tag Joe when Sally asks a question, pretty soon, and it doesn't take very long, pretty soon people are watching. And the minute that the signal falls, it's almost logarithmic, but it's almost exponential. It decays at a half-life. It's like a radioactive particle or something like that. And its half-life is very short. And so you'll think that the community is being well run. It's very similar to a garden. It needs to be pruned. It needs to be tended to, and then it can operate on its own. But if you let it go, and again, that means how you name things, what kinds of places you create, whether that's a room, a physical space, whether that's a digital space, but all of it is tight control and norms around behavior, expectations around behavior. Remember that if you're creating this space, you have every right to tell people how they're allowed to behave. One of the great, and Tony might have been a member of MSP. That was one of the great original listservs, modern sales pros. And Pete Kazanji was the guy that started it. And he was extremely aggressive to the point of public shaming of anybody that tried to solicit or pitch within the community, because he understood that the minute you let it go a little bit, that's when things get really bad. And all of a sudden, everybody tunes out.